No doubt there's a lot of meatball sub recipes around, and a lot of them are derived from Subway. Well, today I'm going to make my homemade version. To kick things off, I'm going to make my sub or my roll. This recipe is from Ethan. Ethan's a pretty awesome food YouTuber, and he's made an excellent video on the Hoagie roll. I'm going to put a link below so you can check out Ethan's video. My own recipe is very much like Ethan's, but maybe a little bit simpler. So like Ethan, I start off with my milk, I measure that out. I warm this slightly in the microwave. I'm going to use some dried yeast. This is in a small packet. I like using it in a small packet because then you know the yeast is going to be alive and it's going to be active. Ideally you want between 105 and 110 Fahrenheit. I give this a little bit of a stir around to gently activate that yeast with the milk. Now Ethan makes his hoagie rolls by hand. I'm going to use a stand mixer to speed things up a little bit and make it a little bit easier. I weigh out some strong bread flour, also some runny honey and some olive oil. You can see this milk and yeast is starting to activate. I'm going to add that to the flour and give it a quick knead. I'm going to literally scrape any excess mixture off the side of the bowl. Let that sit there for 15 minutes so the flour can gently hydrate with the milk and yeast. Now that's done, I'm going to knead this dough between 8 and 10 minutes. If you were going to do this by hand, you can set a timer. This stand mixer is going to do a lot of that hard work for me and develop that gluten in the dough. After a really good knead, I'm going to put that in the same bowl, cover it with some plastic wrap until it doubles in size, which will take an hour, hour and a half. After I finish that first fermentation, I'm going to knock all of that air out of the bread. In Ethan's recipe, I think he makes 3 or 4 hoagie rolls. I want some really big substantial rolls, so I'm going to halve this mixture, give it a quick little knead, stretch this dough into a rectangle. Then I'm going to roll it from end to end, flip upside down, and I'm going to use my fingers to pinch in the seam. Gently roll this out until I get a really good shape. Ethan uses cornmeal, I'm going to use some semolina. Sprinkle this on my baking tray, then transfer my hoagie rolls to the tin. Again, I'm going to cover this up. I'm going to leave this for a second fermentation. This will take about an hour or so, depending on the temperature of your room. My kitchen was about 22-23 Celsius, and you can see these rolls have doubled in size, which is absolutely perfect. I'm going to use a blade to make a slit in these rolls. And then, like Ethan, I've used an egg wash mixture here. This is egg white with a little bit of water mixed up. I'm now going to sprinkle over some parmesan cheese, oregano, and a small pinch of chili flakes. This will give the hoagie rolls a really lovely texture and flavour. That's how they're looking. I'm going to chuck some ice cubes in a hot pan to create steam as these rolls are cooking. I'm going to add my hoagie rolls in. Now Ethan bakes his for 10 minutes and then he rotates the pan. I'm going to bake mine for slightly longer because it's a larger amount of mixture. After 20-25 minutes, these rolls have cooked really nicely. You can see they've got a lovely crust on the outside and the inside is nice and airy and fluffy. I think the key to this recipe is to put them in a plastic bag and leave them for a day or so they're a little bit springy and they're not quite as crunchy as they would be if you ate them straight away. On the second day, I'm going to make my meatballs. First up, I whisk up an egg. I'm going to add some fennel seeds, some crushed chillies, oregano, parmesan cheese, and a garlic clove. These breadcrumbs are a couple of days old. I'm going to add this into my egg mixture. If the mixture is slightly dry, you can add a touch of milk as well. Also, I'm going to add in some beef mince and some pork mince as well. Generously season this mixture. I'm going to get my hands stuck in there and mix all of this up. Once you've got all of that incorporated, you can make your meatballs. I've got a little bit of water just to help me make them into a nice round shape. I've decided to slice up my garlic and I'm going to cut the onion quite finely. Into a hot pan I'm going to add the olive oil and then the meatballs. The trick here is to let these caramelise. I'm going to use a slice to break these away from the pan. Once you've got a good amount of colour on those meatballs, they don't need to be all the way cooked through. You can remove them from the pan. I'm going to add in my garlic, my onion, a little bit of water to deglaze the pan, and also some tomato puree. Once the garlic and the onion has started to soften a little bit, I'm going to add in a can of some really good quality Italian tomatoes. Also a little bit of water, and I'm going to let that reduce down and thicken. A couple of bay leaves, a bit of salt and pepper, and also a touch of sugar. Add in the meatballs back into the tomato sauce mixture. The meatballs can cook through, the sauce can reduce and become a bit richer in flavour. To add a little bit of crunch and a bit of texture to my meatball sub, I'm going to chop up some peppers and also some red onion. I've got my softened hoagie roll and I'm going to cut this in half. Unlike most meatball sub recipes, I'm going to use some smoked cheddar. This has got a really lovely flavour, it's quite tangy and I think will really add to this meatball sub dish. I'm now going to put my meatballs onto my hoagie roll. I'm going to squeeze on as many as I can. I'm also going to add some of that lovely reduced tomato sauce on top. And that smoked cheddar. To keep that Italian influence in there, I'm going to grate on some parmesan cheese as well. This can now go into the grill to get that cheese nice and melted.